Hello and welcome to the 5 Yard Dynasty podcast. I hope you are all doing well. Liam, Super Bowl week, season is finally over. Did you have a good one?
Yeah, it was brilliant, Rich. I know that you weren't there, and it's a shame. I'm going to rip you about it, but yeah, you weren't there. But the Warrior Bowl 5 Yard Rush meetup at Redwoods in London, that was brilliant. Yeah, there's a couple of the 5 Yard lads, Nath from the IDP podcast, Murph was there, Dan from the flagship show, Brendan again was IDP as well. So there's a couple of guys from 5 Yard, the Warrior Bowl crew, Foley and Greg. And then a few guys that you just meet on Twitter and you talk to on Twitter and you don't ever put a name to the face. And then it was just nice to do that. Like Martin or Lucky Fantasy Guy, he was there, and a couple of others. So yeah, it was just good meetup. And the Super Bowl itself, what an incredible game. I wanted nothing more than what happened, basically. The only thing I would say, and I'm sorry, Lewis and Nick, if you're listening as Rams fans, but I wanted the Bengals to win. And I think the rest of Redwoods did. Every time there was a big play by the Bengals, everyone jumped up and they were screaming like it was their own team. And then every time a Rams player did something, you'd hear like 3 or 4 people out of the whole bar. So yeah, it was a great weekend, a great game. But how about you, Rich? I know that you weren't alive, or you weren't.
I wasn't alive. Cheers, mate. You're killing me off.
No, you were up during the Super Bowl because me and Dan were talking in a group chat, and we just noticed that we were talking even though we're across the room from each other.
Yeah, I did think that it was funny that you two were in the same venue yet talking via WhatsApp. It was very 21st century of you both. But yeah, I had a great time. Unfortunately, work commitments meant I couldn't attend, and unfortunately couldn't really stay up. So I got up at 4:30, set my alarm, made myself a nice bacon sandwich and a vat of tea, and watched it radio silent, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Absolutely, as you said, fantastic game. It was very interesting. I saw some negative comments sort of in social media and things that it was a poor game, but I just think any game that doesn't involve 100 points, people criticise. But to me, I thought it had everything and was fantastic. And at the end of the day, it was a game that came down to the last drive, which was all I cared about.
I mean, there were play after play about things that you would cheer about in a normal game. Like the Bengals D line was immense against the run. I worked it out. No Rams running back had more than 2 yards per carry, or as a combined unit, they had less than 2 yards per carry. They were in the backfield completely. And then the Rams, I believe, broke the Super Bowl sack record. I
think tied it, didn't they? With 7,
did they tie it? Sorry. So, it's just a great game, and it was for people like I know that you like defense, but so do I. And for people that really enjoy watching defensive games, that was a good game for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a fantastic spectacle and very much enjoyed. But for those of you who are tuning in, before we dive into the topic, I almost forgot cocktail of the week. I know it's the main reason why some people tune in. So come on, Liam, hit us with it.
Just because you're trying to slate me on Twitter about what is a cocktail, what isn't a cocktail, doesn't mean you need to start forgetting this segment, Rich. So this week, obviously, I was in London. I stayed over last night as well into today, so I've not really had time to think up of a cocktail. So I'll tell you one that I had during my stay in London, called a Cosmo Club. It was an electric shuffleboard place me and my girlfriend went to yesterday. It's Ciroc, berry vodka, raspberry, peach, and lemon, and it was actually really good. Did come in a little, like, not wine glass, but a little sherry glass, shall we say? So
sounds
maybe not the manliest glass, but it sounds
nice. Very much like a 21st century Sex and the City cocktail. So less said about that, maybe the better. But we'll dive into the main topic for today. So today we are going to be doing a live mock draft. So Liam and I are in a live sleeper draft. As you can see, if you're watching the live stream, we have got 10 fantastic people joining us. These are a mix of my patrons and people from the Listener League and a few people from 5 Yard Rush. basically we're going to talk you through a Dynasty startup. So to set the scene, this is a 12-team Superflex non-tight end premium league. So hopefully fairly standard. I think this is fast to become kind of the norm in terms of Dynasty circles. Liam, do you have anything to say before we get going?
The only thing I'd say is we are including kickers, and that is just so we can put rookie draft picks in the startup. So
so the first kicker drafted will be the 101, and so on. Right, well we're live. So Liam, you're picking from the 106. I'm picking from the 112. What are you kind of looking at here with your first round pick? Are you going best player available? Are you looking at a specific player or?
Sorry, I'm trying to stop that awful sound effect coming through.
There's a mute button at the top right, Liam.
Yeah, I think I've just done it. Okay. That was the one thing I couldn't test. So at the 106, I am probably looking at a quarterback. Seeing Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, and Murray went 101 to 104. I am probably looking at Lamar or Burrow here. Jonathan Taylor just went 105, so I will take... I don't know whether people are going to like it, Rich, but I'm going to take Lamar Jackson at 105 just for that rushing upside.
No, I completely agree with it. That's where I'd be going. I think it's difficult, isn't it? And I've done 3 startups now already this year. One of them a mock. And I just think that first sort of 6 picks, you can almost script it, can't you? It's the 6 quarterbacks, it's Jonathan Taylor, and then you're Dak Prescott, and that's the first 8. And it's almost like the draft begins at 9.
It'll be interesting to see what Rich Mundy does here at 109. As you said, Rich, it kind of feels like a teardrop, and as expected, Jamar Chase goes off. So I would probably be looking at Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson at these 2 picks here.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a definite kind of top 7, and then I think there's a teardrop down to Dak, Chase, and Jefferson. And then I think there's a chasm to this next 6. So if I can pick my spot in a startup, I'm definitely looking at those top 10 picks. Perhaps the first shock, really. I don't know if you'd agree with that. We've seen Trey Lance go 111 to Pat. I mean, are you reaching for Trey Lance this early? Or
I am not, unfortunately. In both of the startups that I have done, Trey Lance has been the QB8. You know you're on this clock, right, Rich?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. Just
so talk through mine. So I'm going to go shock for me. My wide receiver 3 overall. So I'm going to go CD Lamb. And when I'm trying to build my Dynasty startup, I'm looking at 2 things really. In a Superflex league, I'm looking at quarterback and I'm looking at wide receiver. So I'm trying to build around as many young stud wide receivers as I can. I'm trying to build around as many quarterbacks as I can. For me, quarterback's a bit of a reach here, as we talked about the tier break. So I'm going to go around my running back 2, and that's going to be DeAndre Swift. So just to
like that on the turn.
Just to recap, we had Liam took Lamar Jackson at the 106. At the turn, I went CD Lamb and DeAndre Swift. We're back to Pat, who took Trey Lance 111 overall. Should probably highlight at this point, we are also doing a 3rd round reversal, which for me, I don't know if you'd agree, Liam, is the only really fair way to do a snake draft in terms of Dynasty startups. All of my leagues, I insist on a 3rd round reversal. Do you think that's something that you're looking for kind of moving forward?
I am, yeah. 3rd round reversals, I don't see any reason why people wouldn't want to do it. I think the value from the 101 to the 112 difference wise is a lot more than what you'd get, say, if you did reverse rookie picks. And if you don't do reverse rookie picks, then it's even bigger.
Yeah, so you're back on the clock now at the 207. So to recap, in the 2nd round, we had DeAndre Swift, CMC, Najee Harris, Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, and then Javonte Williams. So where are you going here, Liam?
Realistically, I'm probably looking at wide receiver, or I will say tight end hasn't gone yet. I'm probably looking at one of these wide receivers that has dropped a little bit further than I expected, and that's Tyreek Hill. People are saying he's old. I mean, he's 27. He's got a good few years left in the league at least. And yes, he's coming to the end of a contract, but I don't see him going anywhere. He's tied to, or he will be tied to Mahomes for a number of years. I don't see any reason why he's going any later than wide receiver 5 right now.
Yeah, so then we see Kyle Pitts come off the board at the 208. Another wide receiver you mentioned, Devontae Adams, he's gone at the 2.9. For me, obviously, I'm picking at the 301 with the third round reversal. I'll be honest, this is the point at which I'm probably looking quarterback. I'd feel a little bit nervous waiting for my first quarterback coming back to me in the end of the 4th. So guys on my board would probably be Deshaun Watson, maybe Aaron Rodgers.
This is why I really liked you going wide receiver running back at the turn, just because it was third round reversal and you knew you were going to get someone back in that third round. I think, to be honest, even if it's not third round reversal, you're still looking pretty decently at the 312, 401, getting a double dip at quarterback. The one thing I wanted to pick your brains on, Rich, is Kyle Pitts at the 208. How do you feel about that? You know my opinion on tight end premium, so I won't go into it too far.
Yeah, it's a bit early for me, I'll be honest, particularly given that it's not tight end premium. I don't think I'd feel comfortable with that, but I don't necessarily hate it. So with my 301, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers. I think perhaps it's, people see that as a slight reach. For me, that's I think I've got him as a second round pick. I think he's my 17th overall player. So I'm pretty comfortable with the value there. Do you think, Liam, that certainly in the startups I've been in, there's been this mad rush in the first round to go and get that sort of top 7? I then feel like Lance and sometimes Trevor Lawrence kind of sneak into the back end of the first. And then there's a real weight on quarterback. And I think that if you can hold your nerve, shall we say, and not panic, actually you can pick up some fantastic quarterback value in the 3rd and 4th.
No, I really agree with that. The one thing I've been surprised about with this one is that only one quarterback went in the 2nd round. I know a lot of people like to grab at least one quarterback in the top 2, to the top 2 rounds. The one thing I will say is I don't think I've seen Lawrence go as highly as you have. I don't think he's gone anywhere near the 1st round. Last year he was, but I don't think this year I've seen him anywhere near the top end of the 2nd.
Oh, really? Well, I've definitely seen him going there. So yeah, wow. I'm shocked that you've been getting the value that you have, because he's been a late. I think normally the QB8, QB9 off the board. So we're just coming up to you now at the 307. So obviously you've got Lamar and Tyreek. Talk us through the board. What are you looking at here?
So I was looking at quarterback if Fields dropped, but Tyreek did take him at the 305. So looking at the running back position, I feel like I could wait a little bit longer on a lot of these guys. So I'm going to take someone that has dropped a bit further than I thought he would again, and take DK Metcalf as a strong wide receiver core and try and build my Dynasty team as a bit more of a, maybe I've still got the versatility, I suppose, what I'm trying to say. I can still move towards a win now team. I can still move towards building for the future with all 3 of these picks.
So Trevor Lawrence goes off the board at 308. He's the 3rd sophomore quarterback, with Trey Lance going 111 and Justin Fields going 305. Are you surprised that that Lawrence is 3rd after those other 2 guys? Or
no, not at all. I think Lawrence still he's had a lot more of a pass than what you'd see from other quarterbacks, and I think that partially comes down to obviously what happened in Jacksonville, but he has a lot more of a rushing upside compared to a lot of the other guys that you're probably taking in this range. So I can see why he's gone where he was. But this is a typical startup for what I expect. A lot of quarterbacks in the top 3 rounds.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like, I talked about taking a risk with quarterbacks, and it's something that I think I'm leaning towards doing it more, because I think when it works, you can be absolutely loaded and then find incredible value at the quarterback position. But it is a huge risk, because I think if you do risk waiting on quarterbacks and you wait a little bit too long and end up holding the bag, and you end up with basically nothing, I think it can basically end your dynasty startup, end your season before it's even begun. I do think that for me, if I'm waiting on quarterback, I'm probably looking to take 3 within the first kind of 7 or 8 rounds, because I think that what the idea of waiting is basically what you're saying. What I lose in kind of elite production, I can make up for with volume in that sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, Rich, here we've had a little bit of a run of wide receivers here. So, after the Lawrence pick, we had Diggs, Watson, Mixon, and Gibson go for the rest of the 3rd round. And then after that, we had Higgins, Waddle, and Deontay Johnson. And I wanted to get your thoughts on Waddle, Rich, because I've seen him go anywhere between the wide receiver 12 to the wide receiver 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think for me, this is about where I'm comfortable. I think that end of the 3rd, early 4th, what is he, the tight end, the wide receiver 12 off the board. He's my wide receiver 12. I think that's for me a really good spot. I think anything above that, you're reaching slightly. So you're back on the clock now. So to recap, you've got Lamar, Tyreek, DK Metcalf. What are you thinking here? You looking at another quarterback, going running back perhaps?
I am actually thinking another quarterback. So if Nick Chubb fell to me, I would have been taking him as my running back 1. Would have been more than happy with that. But I'm going to go a bit risk. Oh, I went on auto pick. That's not what I wanted.
It's okay. I got you.
Cheers. Jalen Hurts is who I wanted, Rich. You won't let me draft him.
You've selected Jalen Hurts.
Okay. For some reason on my phone, it had 3 seconds left, and I was trying to wind down the clock a little bit so we could talk a bit more. But yeah, I wanted Jalen Hurts. Go a bit more risky at my QB 2.
Are you concerned that he could be losing his starting spot next year?
I don't think he will lose the starting spot next year. Yes, they've got 1st round capital, but they've got a lot more holes on that team than what they're going to fill at quarterback position. So I think they're going to be fine. I do worry about him further than the next few years, but QB, I think went as QB 16 here, 15, 16.
Yeah,
I'm happy taking that, because at the end of the day, even though he hasn't got all of the questions answered, if you look at the rest of the QBs here, who has got the same upside that also has the same security, or the security that you're asking for? I wouldn't say any of them do. So I'm more than happy to take the risk here.
Yeah, and we see now our first rookie pick off the board at the 408. So the 44th pick in the draft. Do you think that's good value there? Do you think that's a little bit early?
Non-tight end premium. So I'm just looking at the other people that are on the board still, who went before Matt Jones. No, I think that's pretty good value. I think maybe a little bit early, but no, looking at the players that have gone after him, I'd be comfortable with that.
Yeah, for me, I think that's fantastic value. I value the 101 around about sort of the 30th player overall in this sort of setup, and I think to get him, there it was certainly something I was looking at. So we're now back to me on the turn, so at the 412 and the 501. So just looking at my kind of rankings, so best player available as we speak. So I've got. It's quite interesting. Best player available is the rookie 102, the rookie 103, Saquon Barkley, and Devonta Smith. So I guess it's a question of this is the point at which I'm trying to decide where I'm pivoting in the draft. So if I'm going rookie picks, I'm kind of saying I'm going for that productive struggle and looking to next year. Or do I try and win now with someone like a Saquon Barkley? What I'm going to do with the way my roster's started already with DeAndre Swift and Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to take a little bit of a risk. I think the value has dropped significantly. So I'm going to double up. I'm going to take Saquon Barkley, and then I'm going to take George Kittle, who is my tight end 1 in a standard league. And yeah, I'm very happy with my first 5 there. So to recap, I've got CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Rodgers, Saquon Barkley, and George Kittle. What do you think, Liam?
So you're really going for that first few years of production and then try and rebuild after that. I quite like that. If that's the first 5 picks out of a startup, I'm taking those 5 picks. That you would never assume that Saquon Barkley would be going the end of the 4th when he was going.
Yeah, it's not normally a move I like to make. It's not normally a move I like to make going that aggressive win now. But I just think that I find it with startups, particularly at this time of year, people lean too heavily kind of youth. And I think that actually you can get some fantastic value in some of those aidle running backs. And let's be honest, Saquon Barkley has had incredible highs and incredible lows. There's a new offensive coordinator there. I think, I saw a tweet the other day about he basically has had almost an identical start to his career as Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk then went on to have, one of the best running back careers and was a future Hall of Famer. I'm not saying Saquon Barkley is going to be that, but I just think it's a risk if we're writing off elite talent, which is what Saquon Barkley is. Yes, I've been burned many a time, but count me in for another round. So coming up to you in the 5th. So again, you've started your draft. You've got 2 quarterbacks. So you've got Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, then you've got the 2 elite receivers with Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf. Are you going to go running back here again, or what are you thinking?
See, the value at running back, I don't quite see it there at this point. I feel like I'm in a bit of a ditch once Dobbins went and Barkley went. And I'm not a massive Cam Akers guy. I'm sorry to all those listening. So I think what I'm going to have to do here is take... No, I'm not taking Justin Tucker for visual fans. I'm taking the 102. You mentioned it on your turn.
Yeah, I think it's great value here.
It gives me enough versatility to either go young and make a pick at 102 and trade away Jalen Hurts, or see how the season goes with him because he's still really young, or still gives me the versatility to go and trade that for a top asset that, sorry, Lewis, if you're listening, but I would trade I wouldn't trade the 102 for Keenan Allen, who went a pick before him. Travis Kelce, the same again. Sorry, Tarek. So I think the 102 here is pretty good value.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's, I talked about it on the turn a few picks ago. I think it's fantastic value. And I love the way that you're building essentially a kind of a productive struggle type team, maybe going a little bit older at wide receiver with Tyreek, but you've got those quarterbacks that will offer that longevity. You've got the wide receivers that traditionally offer the longevity, and then you've got that pivot point at the draft pick. So, I mean, with the draft coming back to you in sort of 7-8 picks time, what are you thinking here? Are you going to continue down this theme of, essentially a productive struggle, looking at wide receivers, quarterbacks, rookie picks, and almost punting the running back position? Or do you think there could potentially be some value at running back coming up?
Yeah, so I think coming around to my 6th round pick, 606, those are my 2 options really. I either go really young for the next few picks and try and see how young I can get and go into that productive struggle, or whether I use those 2 picks that you made previously, the 103 or the 102 and Hurts, and pivot away from the productive struggle and try and move into more of a win now situation. Looking at who's left on the board running backs wise, you probably are looking at more of a win now situation if you wanted to go running back here. I do have my eye on the 104 still. It's still not been taken.
Yeah.
The only running back that I thought I was going to take for a productive struggle was Travis Etienne, who went at the 602 just. So it's a very pivotal pick for me. This one is.
Yeah, I have to say this is the point at which I think that we talked about waiting on quarterback, and this is where, you know, there's some fantastic quarterback values. If I'm just looking through my best players available list, so I've got Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, the 104, Aaron Jones, Kirk Cousins, are the next guys. You know, anytime a quarterback is the best available player in a startup Superflex league, I'm always shocked because I always feel like you have to reach for a quarterback. Just as I say that, there's now been a quarterback run, and we've seen Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr go off the board. So Liam, you're up here. So where are we going?
That has made me have a little bit more of a think, because if I'm going productive struggle, well, regardless of what I'm going, it doesn't really matter. I could go quarterback over the 104. Probably not with who's left, so I'll take the 104. Again, still keeps me with that versatile approach of not knowing which way I really want to go, and it leads up to more trades, I suppose. And you know me, I love a good trade. So, Rich, Ryan Tannehill goes the pick straight after 607. So, what are you thinking coming up to your turn at the end of the sixth round?
I'll be honest. At this point, I'm panicking because I talked about it this morning on Twitter. There's 21 quarterbacks that I'm comfortable having as my QB2. There's now been 21 quarterbacks drafted. I probably should have shut up and not talked everyone into taking Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Tannehill. But yeah, now those guys are off the board. I'm panicking because I'm looking at my team thinking I'm a win now roster, and I've not really got a QB2. Yes.
And this listener is... Sorry, Rich, this listeners is exactly why I prefer a more versatile approach. I've still got the opportunity of... I suppose I'm in the middle as well, so I've got more of a versatile approach, but I've still got the 102 and the 104 that if I wanted to go more productive struggle, I can trade Rich the Hurts pick, and it doesn't really hurt me because I've still got those younger assets. So, Rich, sorry for jumping in there. Yeah, carry on.
So I think, this is a position that I hate to be in. And this is the risk of this is why I don't normally build so win now. I'm here. I could potentially. I'm feeling like I need to reach for a quarterback, which I don't really want to do. But the next guys up are Baker, Daniel Jones, Matt Ryan,
Wentz, maybe.
Yeah, I mean those are guys that I don't want to be taking till the kind of 7th, 8th round. But I don't know if I can leave it and risk waiting for one to come back to me at the back end of the 8th. So what I'm probably going to look at doing is I'm going to take, first of all, my guy that I can't believe he's still there. Or in fact, he's not there. I just forgot to cross him off my list. And that was Elijah Moore. I was getting so excited that Elijah Moore made it back to me at the back end of the 6th.
Start of this round, Rich.
He went 601. So next best available players for me is Aaron Jones, Elijah Mitchell.
Aaron Jones is gone, 603.
Oh, okay, I need to pay more attention. And then Amari Cooper. So I'm going to take Amari Cooper, and then I'm probably going to have to reach on quarterback. In fact, no, I'm not. What I'm going to do is I'm messing with my head here. I'm going to go and I'm basically going to secure my quarterback room. I'm going to take that approach of where I waited, but I still need to take 2. So I'm going to take my next best available, which is Baker Mayfield, and then I'm going to take Daniel Jones. I feel a little bit sick doing that, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I just think that now I'm not panicking. I'm not stressing about another quarterback coming back to me. And then I can just look at filling out my wide receiver room.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It does feel really awful. Just So listeners know we are now at the 106 for rookie picks. Just before Rich took the quarterback position. I'll be honest, Rich. I'm looking at the running backs left on the board. I'm quite liking this for the 7th round.
Yeah, there's some great value there.
There's great value, but I'm also looking at one wide receiver that is still left on the board. Amari Cooper just went, who you just mentioned, at 704. I can imagine, now I've said that, the wide receiver I'm looking at is not coming back to me. I'm just waiting on Tarek's pick. Yeah, there he is. Calvin Ridley, 705. I was looking at him going, that's crazy value if I could get him. If he plays at the 7th round, that would have been crazy. So Rich, here, I'm looking at a running back, but it looks so awful. Just so awful.
Like, it's a weird point of the draft, I feel, here, because this is the point at which I don't think there's anybody in this 7th, 8th round that I particularly like. And it tends to be, I either feel like you're reaching on some of those kind of younger receivers with potential, or this is where you're panicking and taking that 3rd quarterback, or you're potentially, you talked about the running backs falling. Obviously, we've got Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Leonard Fournette, Michael Carter, AJ Dillon. None of them you feel particularly great about. And this is the point in the draft that I don't particularly like. So where are you going?
I'm going to have to go running back. The question is whether I stick to my guns on my AJ Dillon hype or whether I go someone else. Oh, this one's tough, Rich.
So my best available on the board is, so I've got AJ Dillon. I've also got the 106. I'm going to have to stick to the hype. Jerry Jeudy. And he's gone with his boy AJ Dillon.
I'm going to have to stick.
I think it's very interesting doing this, and it's slightly difficult and slightly panicked trying to draft, trying to keep track of who's gone, trying to host a podcast. But this is basically how I never build a roster. In the how I'm looking to build a dynasty startup is I'm normally trying to build around youth at wide receiver and complement around that. And so far through 7 rounds, I've got one wide receiver, and that was CeeDee Lamb in the first. So it's do as I say, not as I do, perhaps. Yes, I'm sitting here taking best player available until the 6th when I felt like I had to reach for Baker and Daniel Jones. But yeah, this to me is not how I'm looking to build a startup. I'm looking to build around that youth at wide receiver and kind of go from there.
Yeah, so looking at the running back position, Rich, there's been a few picks come off the board. So Elijah Mitchell just before I took AJ Dillon, then Jacobs after me, and then Carter after that. I'm curious to get your thoughts because, as we've already mentioned, in this section, it kind of feels like you're reaching for anyone. I would have liked Cooper or Ridley to drop to me, and then I could use my 1st round picks to go and trade for a running back or two. But with those wide receivers not falling to me, I felt like I was in a real ditch, shall I say, just not knowing really where to go at that running back room. I liked the value that was there, but I didn't really know which one of that tier I should be taking over the other one. So I'm including Clyde Edwards-Helaire that's still on the board, and I suppose Miles Sanders. I mean, I'd have him lower than the rest of the names that we've mentioned, but that kind of tier feels like running back 2 tier. And as I'm taking them as a running back 1 at the moment, I don't feel too comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think there's a big drop off here as we see the likes of Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman. It's kind of either running backs that, as you said, are running back 2s and have got a floor, or it's wide receivers that could potentially break out. We could easily see any of these guys, whether it be Marquise Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk, they could easily be a wide receiver 1 next year, but they could also completely flop and end up being kind of a bit of a nothing. They're all in uncertain situations. So coming back to you here, are you thinking that you need to reach and go running back again, or are you looking at potentially something else?
To be honest, I was looking at running back until Clyde Edwards-Helaire went. I'm also looking at the quarterbacks, not really fancying any of the quarterbacks right now. So tight ends, again, I'm not fancying any of those. I am going to take a running back here, and I'll take Miles Sanders. I think 8th round value on him isn't too bad. You could do a lot worse in the 8th, in my opinion, at least. How do you feel about that? Because I know you're not a Miles Sanders fan.
I mean, I used to be. I believe in the talent. I'm just not sure it's the ideal situation moving forward. I think that perhaps it's a Jalen Hurts-led offense. I'm not sure there's enough volume for Miles Sanders. There's potential rumors that Jordan Howard could be back next year to vulture some touchdowns. Don't love it. Don't hate it. I think it's not a terrible pick. I think at this point, if I was in your shoes, I'd have probably been pivoting, targeting that productive struggle and basically just punting that running back position and just going either more rookie picks or more young receivers. We're coming up to my pick here shortly. So obviously I've got my quarterback room sorted. I've got 2 elite running backs potentially in Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift. I've got George Kittle, which, to be honest, the last few picks have worked perfectly because best player available for me, I've got Chase Claypool, I've got Hunter Renfrow, and I've got Juju Smith-Schuster. So I'm probably going to be targeting one of those or 2 of those 3 receivers here. Dallas Goedert goes a pick ahead of me, so I'm very happy. I will be taking Chase Claypool, and then I will also be taking Hunter Renfrow. I would consider Juju here, but I just think, given the fact that I'm taking Chase Claypool, I don't particularly like targeting 2 receivers on the same team.
But he's not on the same team anymore.
I know that Juju is a free agent, but I still think he could potentially be back with Pittsburgh next year. So I'll go Hunter Renfrow and hope that what we saw this year is what we're expecting moving forward. And hopefully it wasn't just a flash in the pan.
I will say, after I made the Sanders pick, I looked down the wide receiver list. Just take listeners behind the curtain. I haven't set a queue because if I set a queue, everyone can see it as I'm streaming it. So I'm sure that Paul and a few others might be looking at it just to annoy me during the draft. So I saw Juju afterwards, and I was there like, oh man, I wish I took him now. 8th round value for Juju, I quite like. There's still Mike Thomas and Mike Williams still on the board as well at the wide receiver position. 9th round. Are you willing to take a shot at either of those?
I'm not a big Mike Thomas guy. I know that Pat, who's in the draft, seems to be giving me abuse that I don't believe in Mike Thomas. I wouldn't be taking him here. It's probably a little bit early for me to be taking Mike Williams. I think it's maybe a couple of receivers. He's about in the range that I'd be thinking about him, though.
Well, I'm going to shut you up, and I'm going to take him here. I quite like him. I think that he's going to stay in LA. 9th round. I'm not looking at wide receiver necessarily with the way that this league has been set up, or this mock draft has been set up. Not necessarily looking at a wide receiver that I need to start every week. I'm looking at flex options at this point. So Mike Williams, if he becomes a week in, week out starter, like he was the start of the season, then I'm more than happy with that. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to chuck him in the flex spot and hope the best.
So we've had, so we're now in the 9th round. We've had 8 rookie picks go. To be honest, I'd say where the rookie picks have gone was probably about value. I don't think there's been any massive reaches. I don't think there's been any massive values. It's probably gone about to form. Do you think that where they've ended up going is about right?
Yeah, I do. Just looking at the value now, you're looking at 109 here, I believe, Rich. Is that what you said? Yeah, so 109 here seems pretty good value. Again, like, would you trade the 109 for Kadarius Toney, Allen Robinson, Brandon Cooks? I'd take the 109 out over everyone, even Mike Williams, unfortunately. I completely forgot the picks were still on the board. So I want to go back and change my last 2 picks, which isn't very good. The podcast is starting to fall apart. But
it's the joys of trying to multitask, obviously.
Yeah,
I think the 109 here is great value. It's the best player on the board for me outside of a quarterback. So yeah, I think it's decent value. I think where the picks have gone, I know we keep hearing that it's a poor class. I do think that at this point in the year, rookie picks are the value, and I think that all of these picks will probably be worth a bit more in kind of 2-3 months' time. As we talk about that, 2 picks have gone off the board, 109, 110.
I wonder
to start
who's listening. I wonder if these guys are listening. But one pick that I completely missed on, I saw Juju go at the 905 2 picks before I took Mike Williams. But the pick that I didn't see beforehand was Pat Freiermuth. Rich, what do you think about Pat Freiermuth at the 904? It is non-tight end premium, but even then, he's going as the tight end. What was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Tight end 8.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think of that?
That's about where I've got him ranked. I think that he had a fantastic rookie season. I think he, in terms of number of weeks in the top 5, number of weeks in the top 12, it was basically neck and neck with Kyle Pitts. He just didn't have that incredible elite upside. This is a point where I'm not really looking to go tight end, so I'm trying to avoid the tight end just because I don't think the value's there. So that's my only concern, is that I think that reaching for a tight end here, you're actually taking kind of quite a lot of value off the board by going and grabbing one. You are now up in the 10th round. So just to recap, so Liam has got Lamar Jackson in the 1st, Tyreek Hill in the 2nd, DK Metcalf in the 3rd, Jalen Hurts in the 4th. He then went the 101, the 103, then AJ Dillon, Miles Sanders, and Mike Williams. So talk us through the board. Talk us through your thought process here, Liam.
Okay, so we are looking at, what is that, the 1-9 there? So are we looking at the
111? 111.
Oh, 111. So I'm still looking at the 111. I'm also looking at Kareem Hunt. I think I'm going to have to take the 111 just because looking through the board, I don't think there's many players on the board that I'd take or that I'd trade the 111 for. So yeah, I think that's cemented my pick, Rich. 111 is going to be the pick.
Perfect. So interestingly, just looking through some teams, we've got one team that still hasn't got a second quarterback. Do you think we're in the 10th? We've seen plenty of quarterbacks go. Do you think that's a bit of a risk at this point?
Yes, definitely. I mean, looking at the quarterbacks left on the board, you're probably not looking at anyone you're comfortable having as your QB2, let alone your QB3, let alone your QB2. You're looking at Davis Mills, Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, and then you kind of go into questionable quarterbacks or even starter position questionability. So Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Taysom Hill. It kind of gets really messy after that point. So I'd be worrying if I didn't have a QB2 here. I'm just interested to see what's that rookie pick that that team has. Rich.
That'd be the 112, just gone there.
I thought there was one before that. Am I looking at the wrong team? Yeah, he's got one before that. Was that the 101? No, I'm looking at the wrong team. 105. So that's still a position where you can draft a quarterback in this rookie class.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I'd still be worrying a little bit.
I'm now back on the clock. So just to recap, so I've gone CeeDee Lamb in the 1st, DeAndre Swift in the 2nd, Aaron Rodgers in 3rd, Saquon Barkley in the 4th, George Kittle in the 5th, Baker Mayfield in the 6th, Daniel Jones in the 7th, Chase Claypool in the 8th, Hunter Renfrow in the 9th. So just looking through best players available on my board as we speak. So I've got Matt Ryan, Cordero Patterson, Rondale Moore, and Adam Thielen. I'll be honest, when I'm building a superflex team, I'm always looking for 4 quarterbacks. The fact that I reached on 2 and kind of panicked slightly has been shown that it was the wrong decision, because a guy that I've got ranked in the same tier as those 2 has made it back, and that's Matt Ryan. I'm absolutely delighted to take a 4th quarterback here, because I think that gives me some fantastic trade capital moving forward into the season. And as I said, I'm happy to take 4 quarterbacks because it means that I know somebody else is going to be shorter, as particularly when the value's there. And then the other, screaming value, given the way I'm building this roster, I think is going to be Adam Thielen. If I'm getting him in the beginning of the 11th round, yes, he's 32, getting up there in age. Yes, he's coming off an injury. But as my wide receiver 4 on what is looking like a win now roster, that's certainly a pick that I'm very happy to be making. What I probably am looking at, and I know we've joked about this plenty of times on the pod now, is I'm probably looking at maybe one more receiver, depending on the value, maybe one more receiver, and then you'll probably just see me take 20 running backs, just to fill out that back end of my roster, because I've got my 2 starters. I'm just going to punt. I've got my quarterback room, I've got my 4 QBs. I don't particularly want a second tight end. I've got George Kittle. So I'm just going to take 20 running backs after maybe one more receiver.
We've made it nearly 47 minutes into the pod without making that joke, which I think we did pretty well. I do like your Matt Ryan value. If he made it back to me, he would have been my pick. And looking at the board now, I'm probably looking at another quarterback like Jared Goff.
He beat you to it. Jared Goff just gone.
As soon as I say it. Now, looking at the board, there's not a whole lot I like here. If I was actually in a startup at this point, I'd be considering moving back. I mean, you've seen startups with me, Rich. I'm always considering a trade and moving back. But this is going to be an interesting one for you, Rich. I don't know how you're going to feel about it. I'm going to go Ramondre Stevenson, because I think that he has a great chance at taking a large portion of that backfield this season, and having as my running back 3 in the 11th, I'll take that.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick. Potentially don't love the value. I think maybe you've reached around.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think it's solid. It's solid, certainly. We'll be making this the 12th round, the last round that we'll be doing live, and then we'll have a bit of a recap. So, in terms of best players available for me, Liam, I've still got Cordero Patterson. It feels like I'm going to end up with him on every single one of my rosters this year, because I'm so much higher than consensus on him. Rondell Moore still sat there. I think it's a little bit of surprise that he's fallen so far. You then got Chase Edmonds, potentially guys coming off injury, Robert Woods, Michael Gallup. Is there anyone that's kind of screaming to you as a great value here?
I mean, Robert Woods as a value, especially for a team such as yourself, would be great. I was actually looking at the 202 that has just gone as well. So I think those were the 2 biggest names or biggest assets that I could really think about right now. A guy that I love, and I don't know whether I'd take him in the 12th or whether I'd have to wait a little bit more, would be Laviska Shenault. I'm probably waiting until the 13th, if not longer. But apart from that, I'm not loving what's on the board still. I mean, when you get into the 12th round, do you love what's on the board anymore? Chase Edmonds, I like as a kind of a punt running back to try and ride the free agency wind. But no, I'm actually looking, and surprise, I don't like tight ends, but I'm actually looking at filling my tight end spot here, just because I think the value is there right now with some of the tight ends left on the board.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised that Mike Gesicki's still sat there. I think that's a fantastic value at this point in the draft, given the guys that have gone ahead of him, certainly.
Rich, this is just going to sound like, or look like, I'm copying what you're saying now, but I was actually looking at Mike Gesicki to take there. I liked Fant as well. I will throw that name out there. But yeah, when I said tight end value, I was looking at Fant and Gesicki, and now it just looks like I'm just following your advice.
Sorry, mate. You can just copy what I do. That's not a problem at all. Just
Our
pick what I say.
drafts show that I do not follow what you do, apparently.
So for me, looking like coming back to me here with my final pick that I'm going to be making, I'm probably looking at that final receiver. I quite like the value of Julio Jones potentially here. I've also got Kenny Golladay. Oh, he's gone. No, ignore me.
Yeah, he went.
So it's this is a difficult spot. I might just punt wide receiver, stick with the 5 that I've got, and then just start smashing out all those running backs.
That's not a horrendous core to have, though, especially as a win now team. And what you've also got to think, and I'm sure that you're aware of it, but more so for the listeners, is you've got 4 quarterbacks in any win now season. 4 quarterbacks is great. Just because if someone goes down and then you've got a bye week, you've still got 2 that you can put in. But you also have that trade, that extra trade asset that you can trade for another wide receiver. So, Rich, with the last pick of these 12 rounds, who are you going with?
I'm going with Khalil Herbert. Perhaps more of a pick for the future than a pick for now. But we saw in his short stint that David Montgomery's out last season that he's got elite upside. I really like his potential. I think that David Montgomery's a free agent after this season. He could potentially do really well. So that concludes the draft. We got 12 rounds in. We'll have a little recap. Liam, could you walk us through your team and your draft?
Yeah, so drafting from the 6th spot, I went Lamar Jackson in the 1st round. Let me scroll back up so you can see a little bit better. I went Tyreek Hill in the 2nd, DK Metcalf in the 3rd, Jalen Hurts in the 4th as my QB2. Then I went the 102 and the 104 in the 5th and 6th rounds. Filled out the running back position with AJ Dillon and Miles Sanders, even though I'm still kicking myself that should have been Juju Smith-Schuster instead of Miles Sanders. Mike Williams in the 9th, the 111 in the 10th, which again, I think picks in this draft have gone extremely well in value-wise. Then Ramondre Stevenson in the 11th, and then Mike Gesicki in the 12th, which I thought was great value. With this team, I think I've got enough flexibility to pivot either way. Dylan holds enough value where I could trade him away for more of a win now piece, another running back. I've got 3 first-round picks in this coming draft, so if I did want to pivot away into a win now situation, I've got the 102, the 104, and the 111 all ready to be traded away for more of a win now asset, maybe even an elite tier asset. Equally, I could move away from that win now situation and maybe look at trading Tyreek Hill if I feel like that is a move that I need to make a more of a win now team. Although I'd be more than happy to keep him. I think Jalen Hurts, if I was to pivot to a win now style, productive struggle team, is the asset that I'd want to try and trade away to a win now team. Rich, do you want to go through your team then? Take us through what your thinking was.
Yeah, so I went kind of anti what I normally do. So I went CeeDee Lamb in the 1st, DeAndre Swift in the 2nd, Aaron Rodgers with the 301, Saquon Barkley with the 412, George Kittle with the 501, Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones on the 6th and 7th turn, and then Chase Claypool, Hunter Renfrow, Matt Ryan, Adam Thielen, and Khalil Herbert. So, yeah, I don't dislike my team, I'll be honest. I kind of slightly regret reaching on Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones when I did. Yes, it was a slight panic. I think in hindsight, if I could have maybe grabbed one and could have taken the likes of Amari Cooper there. I think I'd probably feel a little bit happier about my team, but I didn't foresee Matt Ryan making all the way back to me in the 10th round. So yeah, hard decision to make on the spur of the moment that we were drafting. But yeah, really like my team. I think it's built to win now. I don't think the longevity is particularly fantastic, but the wide receiver core outside of Adam Thielen is pretty young. The only kind of players that you'd say are going to age out in the next year or two are potentially Adam Thielen and Matt Ryan. So, I still think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be around for 3 or 4 years. So I'm happy with my team. I wouldn't say I absolutely love it, but I do think that drafting whilst trying to do a podcast and only having 30 seconds to pick was a new challenge, certainly.
I think we did pretty well, Rich.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. Overall, before we kind of close out the pod for the day, were there any picks that particularly jumped out that you thought were either incredible values or incredible reaches?
You put me on the spot here now, Rich. I think that Ridley and Cooper in the 7th.
Yeah,
I think Ridley and Cooper were the 7th, were great values. I'm not quite sure about Elliott in the 6th, and I don't know whether that's because I don't think he's going to be great again or like a top 12 asset at the position, or whether it's the age or what. I just don't know where to draft Elliott right now, and the 6th seems okay, but when I'm looking at other people in that range, I'm just not sure whether I'd even take Zeke as the running back over, for example, Ridley and Cooper.
Yeah, and I think for me, there's a couple of, I guess, picks that stand out, mainly at the quarterback position. I think Trey Lance at the 111. I know there's a lot of Trey Lance believers out there, but that certainly feels a little bit rich for my blood. I also think a little bit later, some of the other quarterbacks that went, Cole Trask went in the 11th round, which, yes, it's the guy's fourth quarterback, but I'm not convinced that he will be the Bucs starter. I think if he was, we'd have heard plenty more out of them. So for me, that feels a little bit of a reach based on situation rather than talent. I also think potentially Sam Darnold at the 1109 was also potentially a reach. I know that he's got that $18 million contract, but I'm not convinced that he's going to be around much longer. But yeah, that concludes the pod. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. It was certainly something new for Liam and I. We've had some feedback that people want to hear some more mock drafts, some more startup strategy, so we thought we'd try and combine them in one. Felt slightly chaotic to begin with, I'll be honest. I was not quite ready for how fast it was going to move, and certainly missed a few picks that went flying in. But yeah, thank you ever so much for that, Liam. Before we leave, I believe you just want one final plug for the Dynasty Listener League.
Yeah, you teed it up perfectly. We have 18 applicants to the Dynasty Listener League. We will be opening 5 spots of that up. 4 of those will be taken from these entrants. If you want a spot, there is, I believe it's our pin tweet at 5 Yard Dynasty. If it isn't, I will make it the pin tweet. And all you have to do is sign up to a Google form, drop us your sleeper username, and we'll do some sort of draw next week. Rich, I believe we wanted to do a competition for the last Dynasty Listener League spot, so that 5th spot. Do you want to tell the listeners how to get involved?
Yes, we're going to give away four chances purely based on luck. And then the 5th, what we're going to do is, what we want you to do is write a review for the podcast on your platform of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anything like that. Obviously, give us the 5-star. What you then need to do is copy that and send it to us as a DM to the at 5 Yard Dynasty Twitter page. And then we will pick the best / most entertaining pod review. And that person will be getting the final spot in the Listener League. We will probably read the review live on the show next week. There you go, Liam. I've just dropped that on you, but I hope you're okay with that.
I can't wait.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, brilliant. Thank you ever so much, guys. As we said, it was slightly chaotic, slightly something new, but I hope you gained something from it. And we will see you again next week.